Hey, this is H. Well, we're going to be running it back with another episode talking about chess knowledge, chess wisdom, chess understanding again. And today I want to talk about how to improve your visualization in chess. The first thing I want to start off with is easy exercises in this video, because most of the people that I train, I give them these exercises, and to start off with, they don't ever know that they can visualize moves in chess. They're in denial that they can do so. And yes, I do offer coaching. Just message me on chess.com. It's in the description below. But anyway, I'm gonna give 3 exercises here, and just to give you a suggestion of how I want y'all to do this. If you're an intermediate player or you know the game of chess, then close your eyes while listening to me. Now, if you just now started learning how the pieces move, you don't know what check is, you don't know what castling is, you don't know how to checkmate, then I would suggest look at the board. This board behind me is gonna stay empty the whole entire time. So for you beginners, yes, you can look, that's okay. But intermediate players that don't know how to visualize, that don't think you can visualize moves in chess, no, I'm gonna need you to close your eyes and learn how to do so. Because when you're playing in tournaments, you can't touch the pieces. This isn't a correspondence game where you can analyze positions during the game, all right? Let's get started. So the first challenge that we're gonna be doing is the knight challenge. What is that exactly? We are going to pretend the board is empty, and follow along with me so that you can completely understand. We're gonna pretend that the whole board is empty, all right? There's no pieces, no pawns, no bishops, no knights, no king, no queen on the board. But now I'm gonna put one knight on the A1 square. I'm gonna put one knight on the A1 square. I'm gonna give you a test now. I need you to pause the video and try to get that knight on your own to the H8 square. I need you to try to get that knight on your own to the H8 square. From A1 all the way to H8. What are the moves that you're gonna do? And if you wanna get a piece of paper and write out the moves, that's fine too. If you want to just spitball it in your head, that's fine too. Both ways work when it comes to visualization. All right, so the fastest way to get to the H8 square is knight to B3, or you can go knight to C2. Either way counts. As long as you're not doing any inaccurate moves, you're gonna be correct. Knight to B3, knight to C5, knight to E4, knight to G5, knight to F7, knight to H8. And if you went to the C2 square, knight to C2, knight to E3, knight to D5, knight to E7, knight to G6, knight to H8. So if you got that exercise correctly, you did a very great job. You're almost approaching the level of, okay, I can do this in my own games. I just wanted you to know that you can calculate if you actually did that exercise unless you pause the video, things like that. Now, if you want to make this exercise even harder, you can put a fire on a specific rank. So for example, let's say we put a fire on the 5th rank to do this exercise, and now we can't go on the 5th rank with the knight. That might be troublesome because we went knight to B3, knight to C5 the very first time that we did the sequence of moves. Now, if you want to make it even harder with this exercise, and you can do this anywhere, you can do this while riding a bus, you can do this while at work, just to help your visualization in chess. You can do a fire on the 6th rank and then maybe a fire on the 3rd rank. I don't know. Be creative with it and just try things out. And you don't have to have the knight on A1. You can start off the knight on D1 or on E1. There are endless possibilities to train this skill, all right? Endless possibilities. But let's move on to the next exercise. Okay, so the second exercise that I want to do is memorizing short games or opening moves, all right? And we are going to start off with the starting position in the game of chess. There are pawns on the board, there is knights on the board, bishops, kings, rooks, all those pieces is on the board. And don't forget the queen, all right? Now, follow along with me with the words that I am saying. The intermediate players should close their eyes while I'm going over these moves, and the beginner should keep their eyes open, especially if you don't know how the pieces move accurately. And you can look at the board and follow along with me too. I'm going to ask you a series of questions during these two games that I'm going to be sharing with you. Let's get started. E4, E5. Bishop C4. What is that bishop attacking? What is that bishop attacking on C4? That bishop on C4 is attacking the F7 pawn, one of the weakest pawns in the beginning of a chess game. After bishop C4, knight to C6. Knight to C6. Queen H5. Queen H5. And then after knight to F6, knight to F6, what is the best move for white? Do you get it? Do you see what game that we're bringing up here? All right, if you got it correctly, you would have set the move queen takes on F7. Queen takes on F7 is checkmate because the bishop on C4 was attacking the pawn on F7. So yeah, the game ended in 4 moves, which we would consider as scholar's mate in chess. We would consider that as scholar's mate in chess. All right, if you got those questions correctly, then good job. Let's move on to the next test. Let's move on to the next game. Let's move on to the next game. E4, E5, knight to F3. What is that knight attacking? What is that knight on F3 attacking? That knight on F3 is attacking the pawn on E5. Knight to C6, which is now protecting the pawn on E5. Bishop to C4. Bishop to C4. D6. D6. Knight to C3. Knight to C3. Bishop to G4. Bishop to G4. What is that bishop threatening? That bishop is threatening the knight on F3. That bishop is not only threatening that knight on F3, but is pinning that knight to the queen on D1. H3 is the next move after bishop to G4. H3 is the next move after bishop to G4. What is that pawn attacking? That pawn on H3 is attacking the bishop on G4. Bishop to H5. After bishop to H5, we have a clear tactic. Do you know what the best move is after bishop to H5 for the white pieces? Knight takes on E5. Knight takes on E5. Bishop takes on D1. Bishop takes on D1 because once the knight moved on F3 to E5, bishop can take our queen since the pin was still along on this diagonal. Bishop takes on F7, check. Bishop takes on F7, check. So there's a knight on E5, bishop took on D1, bishop was on C4, and it took the pawn on F7. The only square that the king can go to now is E7. The only square that the king can go to now is E7. What is the next move after king to E7? Well, It's a checkmate in one, just to give you a hint. Pause the video if you need more time to consider the checkmate in one. The final move is knight to d5. Knight to d5 is checkmating the king on e7. The knight on e5 is blocking the king from going to the d7 square. The bishop is controlling the squares e6 and e8. There's a pawn on d6. This knight is attacking the king. And yeah, this king cannot go to the f6 square because of our knight on d5. So that is checkmate in the middle of the board. What did you think? Did you do good or did you do bad? Put it in the comments down below. If you didn't catch the moves correctly, restart the video and try again. Always try again. And if you want me to do another video just like this, put it in the comments too. In this last memorization test, we're going to be talking about memorizing piece coordination in chess. Now, this exercise is all the pieces off the board at this current moment right now until I put them on there. There's no pieces on the board. I'm going to give you a position and then I'm going to ask a few questions in that position. All right, you understand? And intermediate players, close your eyes. Beginners, you can keep your eyes open because this test is a little bit harder than usual. Okay? Now, follow along the words that I am saying. There's a king, a white king on b6. There is a white king on b6. There is a black king on c8. There is a black king on c8. There is a white queen on g6. There is a white queen on g6. All right. I'm going to ask you a few questions in this position. And this is pretty much an easier one. I could make it harder, but I'll just do that in the next video. What are all the checks that white can do in this position? What are all the checks that white can do in this position? Not checkmates, checks. Even though a checkmate is a check, we're just going to separate those two. Not checkmate, check. If you need a refresher, just go back in the video. You can rewind. All right. Second question. What are all the checkmates that white can do in this position? What are all the checkmates white can do in this position? You can pause the video too if you want to. You can pause the video at this moment right now. All right. So all the checks that white can do in this position is this. There's queen to c6, checking the king on c8. There is queen to e6, checking the king on c8. There is queen to g4, checking the king on c8. There is queen to c2, checking the king on c8. Queen to g8 is checking the king on c8. All right? Those are all the checks of the king that is on c8. Now let's talk about the checkmates in this position. Queen to e8 is the only checkmate in this position. Queen to e8 is the only checkmate in this position that is attacking the king. Our king is on b6, covering the c7, b7, and a7 squares. And this king cannot go to d7 because our queen is on e8 and our queen can move diagonally in this position. All right, our queens can move diagonally. Those are all the visualization tests that I have for today. Keep on fighting to the end, staying focused in chess and in real life too. Hopefully you enjoyed. And if you did, make sure that you like the video and subscribe. And yeah, let's get cracking. Let's get crack-a-lacking. All right.